Samsung Galaxy S23 FE. That FE stands for Fan Edition, and it seems like the fans asked for this phone. After using it for about 2 weeks or so, I have quite a lot of things to share with you about this phone, and especially about that price. But we'll leave all of that to the end of the video, so let's get started with all of the technicalities of this phone first. We'll start off with the performance. For certain regions of the world, we are getting the Exynos 2200 chipset, and I am excited to test out this chipset since it has the AMD RDNA 2 GPU architecture, and I didn't get to test out this chipset last year because we get the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 for the S22 series. So, as shown in our gaming test video, the Galaxy S23 FE has some weird issues. It crashes frequently, and that frame rate was just kind of erratic. However, there was a new firmware update that was released right after we uploaded that video. And I tried to redo some of those tests using Genshin Impact only to see how was the performance. Did it change? Did it have any other effect due to that firmware update? And the game was still crashing. It crashed so much that I got this notification. I'm still not sure what's going on here with the instability and whatnot. It shouldn't be due to a software optimization issue since the S22 series was also using the Exynos 2200 in certain regions last year. So after a restart, I eventually got it working again, and the frame rate was about the same as before the update. So no, the original gaming test video is not obsolete, and everything I said in that video still applies for now. And I was playing it at the highest graphical settings and the highest render resolution possible, so if we just revert back to the default render resolution, the frame rate is a lot better and much stabler. Other games that we have tested in that gaming test video will not be an issue anyway, so watch that video if you want to know more. Link at the top right corner there. Oh, before I forget, the guy who asked me about Dolphin emulator on this phone, I ran this game with its default settings, and while there are some graphical glitches here and there, overall it ran quite well. Moving on, the battery life. I'm not sure why Samsung gave this phone a 4500 mAh battery instead of a 5000 mAh battery, because the size of this phone is not that far from the Galaxy A54. Anyway, I did the battery life test twice. Once before the update and once more after the update, and the results are very similar. We're getting about 10 minutes apart, and I think that is just within the margin of error. Still, 10 hours and 30 minutes is quite good, but you might have to be a bit more careful for it to last for one full day. And the charging speed. This phone does have 25 watts of fast charging, and it supports USB PD PPS, and it can reach to 100% in about an hour. Pretty decent, but I personally don't use fast charging, so whatever. Now let's talk about the cameras. We do have the trifecta of usable cameras here, but other than that main camera though, they are not really that high in terms of its megapixel count. And I took a few pictures and they look really good. I don't have any complaints overall, and I think that they are clear, has great colors, and they are consistent among all of the three cameras. Be it indoors, outdoors, day or night, Galaxy S23 FE can take some surprisingly good pictures. One thing I do have to highlight here is that the night shots. It looks good. Even the dynamic range is magnificent as the bright signboards at night are blended in properly. This phone can also take up to 4K 60fps or 8K 24fps videos too. The stabilization is not gonna be as good as the S23 Ultra, obviously, but it is still really good for those who want to take videos using this phone. And to view what's shown on the screen, it's using a pretty standard Samsung screen in today's standard, so you get a 6.4-inch dynamic AMOLED 2X screen with a resolution of 2340 by 1080 pixels and goes up to 120Hz refresh rate. And like any Samsung screens, the color accuracy is as good as ever. We're getting 100% coverage for both sRGB and DCI-P3 color gamuts with a very high delta E number, but the average is very low. What a lot of people are absolutely furious about is the bezel thickness. It's not just thick, it's extra thick! I'm not someone who goes crazy all over the bezel sizes of phones and whatnot, but I do have to say the extra thick bezels does cause the phone to feel really wide, and reaching to the other side with my finger is gonna be a bit difficult if I'm gonna use this phone one-handed. One more thing is that I don't like under-display fingerprint scanners at all. I'm really not a fan of this technology, and this phone's scanner is placed way too low, making it just not ergonomic to use at all. The design of this phone though is fairly straightforward and minimalist. If you've seen what design Samsung is using for the entire year of 2023, then yes, this phone is also using the same design as well. It's very clean, honestly. Usually, Samsung also will have its IMEI number printed right below the Samsung logo, but for this S23 FE, the IMEI is just not there. I have no idea where they hid the IMEI number, and it just looks so damn clean. And of course, it is running on One UI 5.1 on top of Android 13, and all of the One UI features including Samsung Wallet, Edge Panel, and everything else are still the same. I still love all of these features, and all of the ecosystem features are also the same on this phone. And you can also watch our video at the top right corner there where we talk about all of the Samsung ecosystem features. And speaking of that, this phone is indeed using a USB 3 port at the bottom and has Samsung DeX as well. So when we plug it into an external display, we can use Samsung DeX. It also has double SIM card slots, and that's about it. And finally, we have arrived at the end of this review. There is one burning question that I want to ask everyone. Since this phone is within the FE family, and remember it stands for Fan Edition by the way, which fan asked for this phone at this price point? For us here in Malaysia, it starts from 2,999 ringgit for the 128 gigs model, and I truly highly recommend you to get the 256 gigs model, which is 3,299 ringgit. And I just think that for that price, this phone is just unjustifiable. I think Samsung knows this, and they straight up offered a 300 ringgit instant rebate the moment this phone was released into the market. Certain platforms even have a heavier discount, so do make sure to hunt for the best deals before actually purchasing this phone. I've seen the price go down as low as 2,107 ringgit for the 128 gigs model, which is a more appropriate price for this phone. And if you can get this phone at that price, then yes, I'd say this phone is actually worth the price. You get good cameras, great ecosystem features, and also the ever fantastic Samsung One UI software. It's just that I'm not sure why Genshin Impact in particular kept crashing when I launched it. Just make sure to not use it at the highest render resolution and you should be fine. So yeah, that's it about the Galaxy S23 FE. It's a weird phone, but if you can get it at a discount, it's a good deal.